Hello, Covington County. Welcome to a special segment of Good News Covington County. Here in Andalusia, got a special guest today. Look, it's twins. This is Nickey Carnley. And Nickey and I sat down here and we found out that we're almost related. We're apparently related by the funny bone. There's a lot of experiences that we can share about people that we've known. Nickey is running for sheriff of Covington County, and I'd like to say that I think we've got some pretty good people running for that office all the way around. And Nickey, I can't can't make a choice one way or the other as I sit here. Well, I guess I could, but take all the suspense out of it. That's probably two people want to know why I'd vote. But Nickey has agreed to come here as we're trying to interview as many of these candidates as possible, so that you can get to know them better. And we're in about 9,100, 9,200 homes every day, and we're going to broadcast this over and over again until you feel like you know these people. Turns out, as I said earlier, Nickey and I know an awful lot of people in common, and that's a good thing, because people we know in common seem to have been pretty good people.
Well, they were.
And so I just want to, if you don't know him, this is Nickey Carnley. He's from Opp, Alabama originally. I know his genealogy. A little bit of it. He comes from pretty good stock, and his wife does too.
Thank you.
And you've been pretty much in law enforcement about all your life, haven't you, Nickey?
Yes, I have. Just about my entire adult life.
Yeah. You kind of got into law enforcement as a result of an unfortunate thing in your life, didn't you?
That is true.
Yeah.
I had not, up at that point, I had not considered a career in law enforcement.
Yeah. Nickey's, I won't go into the details, but I actually knew his dad, because I'd stopped in the store. I think everybody in the county's probably stopped in that store at one time, another Carnley's Grocery, over about Opp. And Nickey's dad was killed in the course of a robbery over there. And make a long story short, it was a very, very tough, you can imagine what having to go through losing somebody like that suddenly and traumatically. Had to be on a family, especially a family with young men in it that were just coming of age, and that's where Nickey and his brothers were. And they had to go through, I think, a total of 4 trials to get everything done. And it was rough on his family, rough on, and life's one of those things that you could take something like that and you can go 2 ways with it. You can either take it and make it to be something that drives you to perform better, or you can take it and make it something that defeats you. And we're here to talk about Nickey, and because what you did was you let it become something that inspired you.
I let it affect me in a positive way,
Yeah.
instead of a negative way. I took all that anger and bitterness and used it in a positive way.
Right. And when did you start law enforcement? I mean, you went to Opp High School.
Well, I initially went to Fleta School.
Fleta, okay.
Fleta, I went to Fleta, and then when you finished at Fleta, which went to the 8th grade,
Right.
you went to Opp High School.
Right.
So I graduated from Opp High School.
Right. And then when you got out of Opp High School, did you go into law enforcement then, or did you go in?
Not at that time. You had to be 21 years
That's what
old.
I thought.
So I graduated in May of 1977. My father was killed in August of 1977.
Right.
So
August 15th, wasn't it?
August 15th. Yes, that's correct.
I can, before the interview we were talking, I told him, I remember, my birthday's August 17th. I remember stuff around it,
Well, we got more in common. Mine's August the 30th. So
Get out of here. How about that? What did you do before you got in law enforcement?
before that, I worked for Pope Brothers in Elba, Alabama, building cabinets.
Yeah.
When my father was killed, he was in the process of, we were renting a store building, and he had purchased some land and was in the process of building a new store building, which was about 3/4 of the way finished
Right.
when he was killed. Of course, back then, you could walk into the bank president, and you could get along on a handshake. So we didn't have the insurance to cover loan and all, and we just couldn't make a go of it like
Yeah.
he did. He was the business person in the
He was a
family,
good one too.
so we couldn't make a go of it like he could, so we wound up having to give it up.
And then when you got 21,
When I turned 21, I started trying to get a job in law enforcement. I applied with several agencies. I applied a lot. Didn't think I didn't feel like I would get a job a lot. But
right.
matter of fact, the day Op called me, I was supposed to go the next day for an interview with Montgomery Police Department.
Well, I would
So,
about.
I went in, met with Jerry Brandon and Fred Burdick, and they told me they were going to hire me. They also shared their concerns with me. They were fearful that I may be coming out as wanting to be a vigilante. Or something.
Right.
You know, they had some concerns. They shared those with me. But I explained to them that was not the reason I wanted to be in law enforcement. The reason I wanted to be in law enforcement is to protect and serve people. And, and to hopefully keep some family.
Right.
Or some person from having to go through,
Through what
my
y'all had
family
gone through.
going
Right.
through. Cause I mean, back when my father was killed and they arrested Charles and Deborah Bracewell for the murder, it was murder and robbery. We initially went through 2 sets of trials. They were tried separately. So back then you had a lot more people come to court than you do now. There was a lot more
Right.
spectators in the courtroom, and of course, all the skeletons, all the bones in your closet
Yeah.
are laid bare for everybody
Yeah.
to see, and so there was nothing hidden there. So everything about my family, anything negative, came out, and then of course they were
Just like you were the criminal.
right,
Yeah.
true, and both of them were convicted and given life given the death sentence. And of course, it was appealed to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court ruled that the Alabama death penalty law was unconstitutional. So then we had to go through 2 more sets of trials for that.
Well, we got to take a break right now, and if we get back, Nickey will continue more about why he got into this business. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Today we're talking about sheriffing, and we've got the candidate from Opp that's running for sheriff in Covington County, Nickey Carnley, and he was talking about what inspired him to go into law enforcement. And we just discussed the trial for the murder and robbery of his father that they went through, and then we got to the point where there had been an appeal and they were back having to retry the whole thing all over again, and the stresses that it put on the family as a result. Nickey, take over from here.
I mean, from that traumatic incident that occurred to my family, of course, as I said, I let it be a positive influence on me. Unfortunately, it affected my brothers in a negative way. And of course, back then you didn't have the victim services that you
Right.
have now, so those were not, available. So my 2 brothers, my younger brothers, took a different path in life. Now, one of them has come back from the darkness, and one of them is still, it's
Tough
good
place.
days and bad days with
Yeah,
him. So,
tough place.
so, and then like I said, I went to work got hired by the Opp Police Department, and started there in May of 1980. I attended the Southwest Alabama Police Academy in Baby Net, Alabama.
Baby Net.
And had worked with Opp from May of 1980 to January of 1983.
Okay.
And then Don Harrell was elected sheriff of Covington County and asked me to come to work with him. So I went to work with the Covington County Sheriff's Department in 1983. And while employed with the Sheriff's Department, I met his daughter. And he allowed me to marry her. So that's Dawn, the baby daughter.
Yeah, well, you outkicked your coverage on that one.
Well, I can't say enough about her.
If you got a good woman, you never can.
She's been very understanding and very patient with me. Of course, she understands the demands on someone being in law enforcement because her grandfather, Ely Harrell, was sheriff of Covington County, and then her father, also, who I worked for, was sheriff of Covington County. So I worked there until December of 1990. He lost the election.
Right.
He was running for his 3rd term, and of course, back then, historically, Covington County would give sheriffs 2 terms.
Yeah,
And then they would
yeah.
move on to someone else. So I was fortunate enough to be able to return to the police department in December of 1990, and became a shift supervisor, and then was moved into criminal investigations, where I spent 15 years in criminal investigations.
Wow.
And then, of course, in investigations, we worked both narcotics and criminal, we did not have the
luxury of having a
Drug
homicide division, a gang division, and a drug division. You were the division.
So, you know, I've experienced about everything in the criminal code.
Yeah.
I've worked or been involved with it in some way. So from there, and then in 2008, I was appointed chief of police of the Alpha Police Department by the Honorable Mayor H.D. Edgar, and was chief of police until October of 2012.
And then at some point in time, you went to work with the district attorney's office. Isn't that where you're working now?
Yes, sir, it is. I come out in October of 2012, and then Walt Merrill called me in September of 2013, said, "What are you doing?" And I told him, and he said, "You want to come work for me? I got something I need you to do." And I said, "Sure." I jumped at the opportunity because that's my passion. That's my love.
Yeah.
Is law enforcement and protecting and serving, being a servant of the people. So I began working there.
Well, Walt's, I like to think Walt's a friend of mine. Not because he's had to take me out back and talk bad to me, but Walt's a fine fellow, and I think he's done a great job of building that office into a fine place, you know. And I say this, I've known Walt for a long time, and I know, you know, his association with Ironworks down there, and he and Chris Jackson, that group, have built that into Ted Watson into a really fine thing. But I've known him about, you know, from some other things, and recently I got to know him a little bit better because we were dealing with this Blue Ribbon campaign, and y'all just do a great job with a lot of things down there. I mean, you got your fraudulent checks division and the children's advocacy, and of course then you've got other stuff that you're investigating all the time.
We're also involved in child support as well.
Right.
So we're taking that on as well.
Yeah, that's I guess you've seen probably about as much of all the sides of law enforcement as a person can see, haven't you?
I have. I started as a patrolman, and then worked with the sheriff's department. And back then, of course, it was a small department, so you done everything with the sheriff's department. From all of it, from doing civil process to criminal.
Right.
So when I was able to go back to op, I was able to bring back a lot of experience to the police department.
Well, that's good. It's come a long way. You know, nowadays everybody knows what forensics is, and I just thought that was something you put in your coffee when I was about 19. But I mean, y'all are investigative law enforcement now is a very technical field, and I have a feeling you've probably moved forward with technology as you've done this. And you know, when we get back after this break in a minute, would you mind sharing a little bit about some of the things that, not that somebody's done wrong or it's, you know, anything like that. And I don't think you're the kind of guy that would do that anyway. But about some of the things that you think that we can do to help the sheriff's office if you're elected. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Good News, Covenant County. I'm Nickey Carnley. He's Nickey Carnley. I'm the false Nickey Carnley. He's the real deal. When we left a minute ago, Nickey had given us his background on how he came to be where he is, which is working with Walt Merrill's office now. After having worked in the sheriff's office and police departments here in Covenant County, I kind of guess he's seen it all, and some of it's probably not been fun. But we were talking and wanted Nickey to talk for a few minutes about where he sees opportunities, where you yourself see opportunities to do sheriff different, to be a, you know, I mean, y'all aren't a sheriff's office, you're a sheriff's department, if I remember right.
That's correct.
And I joke about sheriffing, and he knows the guy that I joke about real well. But tell us where you think your your strong points and where you think you can take those strong points and make a difference with law enforcement, particularly the sheriff's department here in Covenant County.
What's got me running for sheriff is because I've listened to the people. I've heard their frustrations. I've heard their complaints because they can't get anything done about the crime. Of course, the crime goes hand in hand with drugs too, as well,
Right.
because you've got people that they steal, they victimize the law-abiding citizens to support their habit. So, and they're just very frustrated with the service they were getting. So, I decided I can't sit on the sidelines anymore. I've got to get involved. I've got the experience, and I can walk alongside those investigators, and I can invest in them. I can share with them my experiences, and to make sure they have proper training, because the thing about it is, you can share those experiences, but and it's the same way that a lot of people invested in me through my career, is take those things and find what works best for you. Someone can share with you something, how they do things, but you may have to take it and work it and find out what works best for you.
Do you, and I appreciate you not, one of the rules we have on the show is not going negative. If you go negative about another candidate or something like that, we pull the plug, and we'll try to drive carefully next time we see you so you won't arrest us. But and I appreciate you not doing that. One of the things I see about being a sheriff, the sheriff, which has an extremely powerful office constitutionally in the state of Alabama. I think most people, not to make light of it, think of being sheriff as a lot like Andy and Mayberry. It's not at all.
You're an employee of the people.
Right.
The people, you work for the citizens of Covenant County. That's who your employer is, and that's who your boss is. And if they're not happy, you need to be involved and find out why they're not happy.
Yeah.
And then you also need to be focused on what is their concerns, what is the issues facing them. 'Cause
What would you do? What would be your plan to have people where they felt like they're more comfortable communicating with you, Nickey? What do you have an idea of? A clearinghouse for ideas of people that can contact you, and how?
Be involved. Be involved. You've got to listen to the people. You've got to listen when they're calling you with information. You've got to be following up on it, and you've got to let them know you're following up on it. You've got to show them that your concern is my concern, and I want to address what the issue is. I want to address it.
Right. Again, and I kind of knew this, but I've learned as we've gone through this process here that one of the big functions of being a sheriff is you have an administrative burden.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how many deputies we've got here in Covenant County, but it's more than a couple of dozen, and they're spread over a large area. Sheriff's Department's actually spread pretty thin if you look at the demographics of square miles and that kind of stuff. And I know sometimes you'll have a guy down in Wing that's on duty, and the problem's up at Rose Hill, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and I don't think anybody can solve that problem. That's just bad timing. But administratively, what's been your experience? I know if you've been a police chief, you've obviously had some administrative experience because you had to administrate a police department. And that's no easy task either.
It's not. One of the things you have to, with OP, when I was chief of OP, I had 29 employees on a good day. And then we dealt with a budget of about $1.3 million.
Right.
So with the sheriff's department, I think the combined budget of the sheriff's department and the jail is around $4 million, almost $4 million.
Right.
And then you've got I think it's 56 or 57 employees. Now,
Yeah.
that's jail and the sheriff's department.
I don't know why I think it's 57 or 58, but it's the same number anyway.
And it's, and the responsibilities on law enforcement, they haven't decreased, they've increased.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able to best use your resources to address those issues. And you got, take for instance, you have school resource officers, and you've got to make sure that you've got experienced, qualified people in those schools, because you've got, I believe you've got several schools in the county,
Yeah.
You need to make sure that they're adequately protected.
Right.
By qualified people, because each one of those schools needs a resource officer.
And they're a soft target.
And some of them need, some of them need 2 resource officers. You just have to look at each school on a case-by-case basis. But then you got also, you got the internet that's supposed to be a good thing. Of course, it's used for a lot of bad things. So you got to deal with that as well. And of course, now you also with churches, you've got to come along and partner with your churches to, when they have security concerns or issues, you've got to assist them and give them guidance on that. So there's just a lot of things now, and you've got more drugs. When I started in law enforcement, marijuana was a big thing, and it took by steps. Then it went from marijuana to cocaine, then it went to meth. Now you've got it's just a whole platter of it out there. Now
as a friend of mine that's a minister said, it says, there are days I pray that the only thing I have to deal with is marijuana compared to what it used to be. We're going to break here and we're going to get back and talk a little bit about training and those kind of things.
3, 2.
Welcome back to Good News Covenant County. I'm here with candidate for sheriff, Nickey Carnley, fellow that's, I guess, I'm trying to be his friend. He's been friendly enough to me. We were talking during the break about school resource officers and those kind of things, and it's complex. It's a complex situation that law enforcement has found themselves involved with, and there's a lot of debates, and there's good points, I guess, on all sides of it about arming teachers and having school resource officers. I think the best thing is still to have resource officers on the place, and not just have everybody out walking around with a pistol, even a concealed one. And I own guns, but I'm trying to be pretty careful about it too. I was going to ask you about, and you might be able to go further out there, Nickey, with it, but one of the things that I see as law enforcement goes on is anybody in law enforcement, deputies, needs more and more training to be able to cope with the complexities of being a law enforcement officer.
True.
And I was wondering if you had an opportunity to maybe explain what you felt like about developing a training program would be, or what they continue to do, and maybe something about the training that you've had too.
The training, they need to be trained.
Right.
It's an ongoing thing. I know with us, with law enforcement and with the sheriff's department, you're required to have 12 hours of continuing education units per year.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you would like to see more than that, and training things that those officers can take and use, apply to their responsibilities and their duties, because, some of the schools may not apply. So you need to send them to schools that's getting the best benefit, that's going to benefit the citizens that they're, protect and serve. As far as me, in my training, I went to Southwest Alabama Police Academy. Then from there was fingerprint schools, photography schools, then investigation, interview schools. As it went on, DNA came on the scene.
Right.
DNA, and then with child abuse and sex abuse, that training. And
Things you never even thought about when you were first getting in law enforcement, you're now responsible for.
And it's just, we can sit here and talk all day about my training if you want to, but
No, I just think
then,
that it's important that.
And the good thing about being, when I was appointed chief, we were required to have 24 hours of continuing education units
Right.
a year, and our training was more specifically, toward being a department head and running a police, law enforcement agency.
Well, I think that's a good thing. What do you think? What do you think that you think that you yourself can do to make a difference? Besides, you said listen, and that may be, the old smart man says that's why you got two ears and one mouth. You're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk, maybe more. And we kind of discussed that, but you think listening is going to be the key to communicating better back with the citizens maybe.
You've got to listen, and that way when you're listening, you respond and then respond to their concerns, to address
Right.
their concerns, and that's like I say, that's why I'm running. It's because of that, listening to their concerns, and it's also listening to the business people and people who have real property with their civil summons, because that's the responsibility of the sheriff. There's a
Right.
lot of things that fall under the umbrella of the sheriff, and I don't understand why you would be told to go hire a private civil process server to get your civil paper served when, that's part of your duties, part of your responsibilities, and you have a lot more, if a private civil process server can serve civil paper, then why can't law enforcement? Because you have a lot more resources to pull from to be able to locate someone, and then just bringing that 36 plus years of experience to the table and utilizing it.
Right.
Investing in those people you're leading, but also using it to protect and serve the citizens of Coleman County.
Gotcha. Well, look, folks, we need to close it out now. Thank you, Nickey, for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate you
it. It's good
having
to
me on,
see you.
John. Thank you. I
I
appreciate
want
it
everybody
very much.
out there to listen to what he says, and just as important, maybe more important, is get yourself registered and vote. Thanks for your time. We'll see you later.